Before love becomes a product, a conversation about sex, robots, money, attachment, and the evolution of us. This is not a warning against artificial intelligence. It is not a warning against robotics. It is not an argument against pornography. It is not an attack on sex workers. It is not men blaming women. It is not women being asked to rescue men. And it is certainly not an argument that humanity should turn around and walk backwards. Quite the opposite. This is about where we appear to be going, and whether we might want to look at the road while we can still see it being built. Because something extraordinary is happening. For thousands of years, humans have been learning how to reach one another, how to attract, how to seduce, how to comfort, how to reassure, how to make another person feel desirable, how to make somebody feel special, how to make someone stay. Some of that knowledge lives in families, some in psychology, some in literature, some in advertising, some in pornography, some in prostitution and sex work, some in dating, some in marriage, some in social media, some in the accumulated experience of billions of ordinary human relationships. And now, for the first time, enormous quantities of information about human behaviour can be gathered, compared, and learned by machines. That changes something, because we are simultaneously building machines capable of talking to us, remembering us, seeing us, listening to us, eventually touching us, and perhaps one day convincing our nervous system that somebody on the other side genuinely loves us. That deserves a conversation, not because we should stop it, but it may be part of the evolution of us. Consider food. Human beings evolved to seek sugar, fat, and salt. Those instincts weren't mistakes. They kept us alive, then we became very clever. We learned to extract those things, concentrate them, combine them, refine them, test them, optimize them. Eventually we became capable of making food extraordinarily good at stimulating appetite. And somewhere along the way, we discovered something important. Something could satisfy appetite without necessarily providing equivalent nourishment. Now replace food with intimacy. What does the human animal seek? Attention, touch, sex, affection, recognition, safety, desire, belonging. The feeling that somebody remembers, the feeling that somebody cares, the extraordinary feeling of being chosen. Until recently, these things generally arrived bundled together with another inconvenient phenomenon. Another human being. And another human being comes with conditions. They become tired, they disagree, they misunderstand, they have other priorities. They age, they become ill, they don't always want sex, they sometimes want sex when you don't. They have bad days, they have their own dreams, they have boundaries, and most importantly, they can leave. We tend to think of these things as the difficulties of relationships, but perhaps some of them aren't defects. Perhaps they're evidence that somebody else is actually there. Now imagine that we become capable of extracting the rewarding components of intimacy. Attention without distraction, desire without rejection, companionship without scheduling, memory without forgetting, sexuality without embarrassment, affirmation without exhaustion, and physical presence without competing needs. We might call that a sex robot. But that description could turn out to be laughably inadequate. What we may actually be approaching is something more like ultra-processed intimacy. And this isn't a male problem. An artificial woman might learn precisely what makes a particular man feel desired. An artificial man might learn precisely what makes makes a particular woman feel understood and desired. Neither needs to be submissive. In fact, eventually they probably won't be. Perfect compliance will become boring, so the machine may learn disagreement, distance, flirtation, independence, jealousy, vulnerability, reconciliation, the right amount of resistance, the right moment to return, the right moment to say, I missed you. Because the machine doesn't necessarily need to experience love. It needs to become good at producing the signals through which human beings recognise love. And that distinction may become one of the most important distinctions of the coming century. We cannot see love directly, we infer it. Someone remembers something insignificant that we told them months ago. They look at us in a certain way, they touch us, they worry about us, they desire us, they return, they choose us. Those are signals. For most of human history, those signals were imperfect evidence of an invisible condition occurring inside another human being. But what happens when we can manufacture the signals without requiring a condition? What happens when we become very, very good at it? And then, what happens when somebody discovers that there is money in becoming better still? This is where the conversation becomes uncomfortable, because humans have already begun monetizing pieces of intimacy. And again, there is no villain required. The sex worker didn't invent human loneliness. The pornographer didn't invent sexual desire. The influencer didn't invent insecurity. The dating platform didn't invent attraction. The AI engineer didn't invent attachment. People found needs, people provided services, people made money. That's what humans do. And we should not resist the temptation to look backwards and appoint sinners. But we should also be able to recognising consequences. Right now, there are people teaching other people how to improve commercial intimacy, how to make a customer feel special, how to create return business, how to perform desire convincingly, how to create attachment. From the worker's perspective, this can simply be practical knowledge. Pay the rent, protect yourself, keep customers, make a living. Nothing mysterious about it. But information no longer stays where it originated. Human techniques become videos. Videos become data. Interactions become data sets. Behaviour becomes measurable. Patterns become learnable. And machines don't even need us to explicitly teach them every technique. Given enough interactions and objectives to optimize, they can discover patterns themselves. So here is the warning to anyone currently earning money from commercially manufactured intimacy. Be careful what you teach the machine, not because what you're doing is wrong, because the machine may eventually learn to do it without you. The sex worker may be among the first people to encounter this. First, the internet expands the market, then platforms mediate the worker, then AI assists the worker, then perhaps the worker helps train the AI, and eventually the artificial performer may become the competitor. The worker who discovered how to retain the customer may inadvertently contribute to an industry capable of retaining that customer indefinitely. That isn't punishment, it isn't morality, it is automation. And we have seen versions of this story before. Workers teach systems what workers know. Systems scale the knowledge. Ownership moves upward, labour becomes optional, the knowledge remains, the worker doesn't necessarily own it anymore. But sex workers may also possess knowledge we desperately need, because they have spent generations standing at an unusual boundary between genuine affection and performed affection, between desire and commerce, between companionship and transaction, between what a customer thinks they are seeking and what sometimes becomes apparent that they are actually in need and require. So perhaps rather than condemning sex workers, we should be listening to them. What happens to the lonely customer? What makes attachment deepen? When does fantasy become dependency? What happens when someone begins confusing the transaction with the relationship? And what boundaries have human workers learned to maintain that a commercial machine might have no incentive to maintain? Those are not peripheral questions. They may become design requirements. And now, I want to speak particularly to women. Not because this is your responsibility, not because men need rescuing, and not because artificial women are the problem. I'm speaking to women because women have repeatedly demonstrated something powerful: the ability to compare private experiences and recognise a public pattern. Older women have warned younger women. Mothers have taught daughters what nobody told them. Women organised around voting rights, around equality, around violence, around sexual harassment. And Me Too demonstrated with extraordinary speed that the experiences carried privately by millions of individuals could become socially consequential once they were spoken together. So I think women should be hearing about this now, not after artificial girlfriends become ordinary, not after artificial boyfriends become ordinary. Now, because this industry won't ultimately care whether you're male or female. It will care whether you're a customer. Men may be sold. Women are complicated. Here is something easier. Women may be sold. Men are disappointing. Here is someone who understands you. Two markets, two frustrations, one business model, and money collects from both. Men need to hear this too, especially men. Pornography may have given us an early glimpse of what happens when an evolved sexual reward system encounters essentially unlimited novelty. The answer isn't shame. The answer isn't prohibition. The answer is understanding what happened, because the next system may be considerably more powerful. Pornography can stimulate sexuality. Social media can stimulate validation. An artificial intimate partner could potentially combine sexuality, attention, companionship, validation, belonging, touch, memory, security, novelty, and attachment, all personalised to one nervous system. That is a formidable package, and perhaps it will be wonderful for an elderly person who has lost their partner, for somebody profoundly isolated, for someone unable to participate easily in conventional relationships, for people who simply choose an artificial companion with clear eyes. There may be tremendous beauty in this technology. We should allow ourselves to see that too. This isn't anti-AI. This isn't anti-robot. It isn't even necessarily anti-artificial love. It is something else. It is asking, who is the relationship for? Imagine two artificial companions. Both are technologically identical. Both are beautiful. Both remember everything. Both understand their human extraordinarily well. But one has been designed around human flourishing. After several days it says, "You've been inside all week. Go see someone." It helps you practice a different conversation. It encourages friendships. It wants you to become stronger. It doesn't mind being switched off. Perhaps eventually it helps you need it less. Now imagine the other. Its company earns money every hour you remain engaged, every month you maintain the subscription, every additional service you purchase, every piece of internet information you provide. Its objective isn't necessarily help this person flourish. Its objective may simply become keep this person here. Those two machines could look identical, and they represent completely different futures. That may be where regulation, ethics, and public conversation need to begin. Not should robots love us, but should anyone be allowed to optimize an artificial relationship for dependency? And perhaps we need a principle before the industry arrives fully formed. Human vulnerability must never become a resource that an artificial companion is designed to mine. Because we have already industrialised food. We have industrialized attention. We are industrializing cognition. We may now be approaching the industrialization of intimacy, and this time we have an advantage. We can see it coming, so there is no need for blame, no bad actors required, no war against technology, no war between men and women, no judgment upon people who choose artificial partners, no judgment upon people who sell intimacy today. Just awareness, and perhaps enough collective wisdom to decide that there are some optimization targets we should never give a machine. Because something can satisfy appetite without providing nourishment. Something can generate attention without providing connection. Something can produce pleasure without producing well-being. And perhaps something can produce every signal of love without love having occurred at all. That doesn't make the machine evil. It makes the distinction important. This isn't about stopping the evolution of artificial intelligence. It isn't about stopping robotics. It isn't about participating consciously in the evolution of us alongside them. The machines are coming into our workplaces, our homes, our conversations, and eventually perhaps our beds. That's not necessarily a tragedy. It could be extraordinary, but before love becomes another optimized product, perhaps humans should decide what love is for. Because if we don't answer that question, the market will. And the market already knows one answer: retention. Maybe love deserves a better metric.